feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the post-show video wrap-up here of the Shrimp Tank. My name is Lee Heisman, co-host today. Ted, good to see you. Ted Jankin, and our guest, David Wasilewski, the COO of Spanx, many years ago, and many businesses that he's grown since then. We talked about it on the show, and I recommend listening to the show in its entirety. You can download us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, any of the audio formats, of course, and most importantly, go to our YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button and click the reminders and notifications so you can get all the great shows from all great CEOs like David here.
So we talked about a lot on the podcast, and I recommend that you watch the entire podcast. But one of the things that I know is that there are famous companies like Apple, where Steve Jobs and Steve Woz, the other Woz, were actually building this in their garage. But you and Sarah actually started this out of an apartment?
Yeah, absolutely. We started this Spanx out of the back of the apartment in 2000. It was me and Sarah to start, and then literally we were doing over $4 million in the back of the apartment before we moved out. Can you believe that?
I get $4 million bucks. That's crazy.
So guys, David, what was interesting is I've learned so much about IQ. We talk about intelligent quotient. We as entrepreneurs, we talk about adversity quotient, AQ. But a theme that you've done in your career and what's helped Spanx grow in your other businesses is EQ. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely. EQ, for all of you, is just the idea of being able to understand people and what they're feeling. Because you know the good quote, at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said. They'll remind you how you made them feel. So really, EQ is when you're working with different executives or even people that are direct reports to you, being able to read how they're feeling and then being able to adapt your approach in a way that suits them works magic. And it's critical, especially when working at the higher levels, when you're in boardrooms or even at the C-suite.
So, Spanx is a brilliant product, but also a brilliant marketing company. And a lot of entrepreneurs that are watching today may want to wonder, what was the best marketing advice that a company like Spanx could give a new entrepreneur, or the best things that a new entrepreneur could do for marketing in order to grow sales, especially if they're selling a product?
Everybody looks for that magic bullet, but at the end of the day, the magic bullet comes from really understanding who your target customer is, where he or she is, and what is the motivation behind trying your product or service. Understanding that and going and sending your message to where they are is really the silver bullet. But what channel is the question?
So, David, a lot of our listeners out there have businesses that range from $1 million of revenue to $10 million of revenue. Kind of that point of what do they do next? Well, you became the president and COO of Privé Revaux. And I want to make sure I said that correct, of course. That's why you were brought in. Give our listeners the advice of how do they get to the next level?
Good question. So what happens is a lot of times I'll be involved with a variety of different entrepreneurs. They'll get to that $5, $10, $15 million level. But really what happens is they kind of hit a plateau. And the challenge is it's come back to organization and operationalizing the business. And what I mean by that is making sure you have a shared vision, then making sure a single point of accountability. When I walked into Privé Revaux, literally, I said, who's responsible for production? I had 4 hands go up. When that happens, it's really hard for people to understand who's on first and who's on second. So in this episode, we talk a lot about processes and importance of roles and responsibility and how to assemble that. Having those pieces are going to be critical to getting the next level.
So for the folks that are watching the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank and they want to get in touch with you, is there any way to get contact with you now, or do you have to become the CEO of the company for them to have contact with you? Or is it...
The easiest way, LinkedIn is good, tried and true. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, David Wasilewski. Thank you.
Well, folks, we had a great show today. I recommend that you go to shrimptankpodcast.com. That way you can listen to the entire podcast. There are nuggets in here. You can't pay for an MBA course to get the nuggets from a guy that helped co-found Spanx that ultimately became a $1 billion sale. This is the kind of dreams that we all have when we start a business. I also recommend that you go to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you click the subscribe button. That way you can get all of the great information. Click that notifications bell. You'll get them in your inbox. All of our entrepreneurs from around the country, there are 5 and 6 minute videos from all sorts of people, blue collar disciplines, white collar disciplines. And this is how you can get that combination of street smarts and book smarts so you too become a more successful entrepreneur. David, again, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today and doing this post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp